Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Social Media Millionaire podcast. I think this episode is going to be a really good one. We're going to do kind of a practical breakdown of sales psychology, how you can apply it in your content, and we're going to talk all things people first sales. So, we're going to break some of the myths that come with speaking about sales psychology and the ethics of leveraging sales psychology in your content. We're going to talk about some of the specific pieces of sales psych that you can leverage in your content. And I'm going to hopefully give you some tangible takeaways that you can really use to increase the conversion of your content. We talk a lot about visibility and virality and all of those good things, but we really need to also have a good understanding of how to drive conversion with our content. And so that's what we're going to dive into today. So, first things first, let's talk about the most important part of leveraging sales psych in your content, which is the fact that you set the tone for what people can expect and how people are going to interact with you. So, if you're finding that you have just an audience of consumers and people are not buying from you, they're only asking questions and they're wanting free coaching, or you're attracting a lot of people that maybe can't afford what you're selling, or you're attracting people who seem to want free coaching in the DMs. Um, Typically, what is happening here is really you are setting the tone for that type of interaction. So, when you're posting a lot of educational content, when you're posting a lot of how to's, tips and tricks, tutorials, you are creating an audience of consumers. You're creating an audience of people who watch your content, they save your content, they maybe even share your content, they comment on your content, but they never buy. And so the biggest thing that you can do to eliminate that tone of consumerism and set the expectation that you are a business is not to give everything away in your content. What I mean by that is we're going to discuss what people need to do in your content, but not how to do it. That's an important distinction, right? So when you look at the TikToks, for example, that I put out, the concept of those TikToks is to make people aware of what is possible in leveraging the strategies that we teach, right? What I'm not doing is walking them through step by step how to optimize their Instagram, how to script a video, how to. It's never how to, it's what to do. And that is a very key distinction when it comes to setting the tone for conversion rather than consumerism. Now, when we are talking about setting the stage for your brand's psychology, there's a couple things that you want to take in mind. The very first is the feel good factor in sales psychology. And essentially what this is you are creating a dopamine hit, a dopamine release for your audience. And you do this by providing a perspective shift, an aha moment. You are wanting to trigger those feel good chemicals in people's brains when they are watching your content. It's what makes content addictive. It's what makes people want to binge your content. It's what makes people want to be in your space, right? As much as I hate that type of marketing, it is effective because of the psychology behind why it works. Okay. So the feel good factor, huge trick in marketing and sales is just being genuinely likable, being somebody who people enjoy watching and having conversations with. Let your personality show through, right? Be funny. Talk like you're speaking to a real person rather than a robot that has a gun to their head, right? We want to set that tone with your content and kind of disarm people with kindness, humor, and create those warm, fuzzy vibes. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to show up in a way that you're not. I'm definitely not a warm and fuzzy person. I'm known for creating very no BS content. I'm very to the point. I'm very honest, sometimes brutally so. That being said, I'm still able to create this feel good factor because I give people that dopamine release. I give them that aha moment where their symptoms and what their actual problem comes together and they understand what it is that they need to do to move forward. That's the most powerful form of a dopamine release, is to give people clarity, give them that aha moment. There's nothing more rewarding. Now, number two is creating emotional connections with your audience. And again, this is also very disarming and also is going to activate people to work with you over other people. Now, the reason for this, it creates a sense of loyalty. So when you share openly, when you share transparently a peek behind the curtain, you talk about your personal life, you talk about your quirks, your struggles, the things that you've walked through, those are going to be deep connection pieces for your audience. Where somebody else in your industry shares how to's and tips and tricks, you've created a dopamine release and a deep connection factor that is going to eliminate the price shopping phrase and get people to work with you and be locked onto your brand over everyone else. Now, when people have these similarities and they really can relate to you, that is what is going to activate them to buy with you over other people. So, little details of your life. And I talk about this, we actually have an entire um, lesson about this in the program because of how important this is. This is where we talk about the business butterfly effect, as I've coined it. And so we break down what the key bullet points are basically and the key stepping stones within your journey that created the domino effect that brought you here. So something that I share all the time is, I went from a 2% survival rate to being in the 2% of multi seven figure female founders, right? So I've created a through line through some different life events that seemingly are unrelated, but I'm able to share how the dominoes fell that brought me to where I am now, right? So if we rewind, we look back at getting that cancer diagnosis, being involved in therapeutic horseback riding, then doing social media management for a mentor in the rodeo space, to going to college, meeting my husband, then starting a company doing social media management and web design, all the way full circle to where we are now, right? You can see how that butterfly effect and creating those connection points is deeply impactful. I've had people work with me because they found me because I was talking about, what I've done with horses or being a rodeo queen or barrel racing, and that's something that we have in common, or they've had a type of cancer or a family member who did. And so that's something that creates a sense of loyalty because it's common ground that we can connect with, and it goes far beyond just sharing tips and tricks and informational content. Now, the next thing is to aim for aspiration rather than imitation. So, what I mean by this is instead of sharing only what's worked for you and what you do and what your strategy is, right? We want to give insight as to where your clients have started. What has their journey looked like, right? You can inspire others to want to um, aspire to the level of, success that you've reached, whether it's in business or health or fitness or anything else, right? But we don't want them to imitate you, right? We don't want them to make their website look exactly like yours and pick the same brand colors as you and the same brand fonts and replicate your photo shoots because that's what they see working well in your content. It's fine to inspire people to aspire to a higher level. What we don't want to do is create and breed an audience of copycats. And so the way that we do that is by being loud and proud about your values and beliefs. We embrace imperfection, right? We showcase those hard moments. We showcase the things that, even going back to those, connective pieces, we showcase those things that are uniquely us, unique to our story. And that's going to inspire other people to share the things that are unique to them and their story. So rather than trying to replicate your success, you are giving them a permission slip to stand in their own power with their own views and values and morals, and perspectives and life experience, rather than trying to just imitate and replicate what you've done. Um, so really, really being authentic and again, sharing those hard moments, sharing the things that you've walked through, rather than just giving tips and tricks for how you can be like me, how you can reach the same level of success. Sharing those difficult things that you've been through is really going to, again, inspire people to aspire to your level rather than imitate what you're doing. The next piece that we need to talk about is crafting the customer journey. So we want to be very intentional with the phases that we're bringing people through as they go from discovery to purchase. So from that very first Pinterest pin that they see, or that very first TikTok that comes across their For You page, where do we want them to go? What does that journey look like? Is it strategically engineered to illustrate for them what the gaps are in their understanding that are keeping them stuck and how you uniquely fill that gap? That is the $1,000,000 question, right? That is the conversion equation as I've coined it. This is a core foundational element of what we teach, which is how you communicate the difference between where they are and where they want to be. And that also simultaneously brings them through this customer journey of finding you on an outreach platform, to becoming a loyal follower, to actually purchasing and becoming a client of yours. So when we look at crafting the customer journey, we want to be very strategic with the intention behind every piece of content that we put out. So typically what you're going to do is you're going to have 3 different types of content. You're going to have content that is outreach, that is engineered for virality. These are the videos that we post that hit 1 million, 3 million, 5 million views, right? These videos are not supposed to create conversion. They're not supposed to activate people to buy. It's simply to pique people's interest and create an awareness of our brand. We're just introducing ourselves to people, essentially. That is what those viral videos are made to do. Then we have our second form of video, which is our immersion. Okay. This is where we're immersing people into our beliefs, our mindset, our strategies, our signature framework, right? We're really bringing them through and creating that content that's really kind of a gap assessment almost for them, where they can self-identify with the gaps that they have. They can see what they're missing, which moves us into content type number 3, which is that outcome-driven content. This is what's going to drive sales, drive conversions. This is where we showcase, what the results are that they could have if they listen to you, and then how they're going to get there, what you do for them to get them there, right? So we bring them through this process of discovering you, becoming immersed in your world and understanding your philosophy, your morals, what you believe in, to then understanding what it is that they're missing and how you fill that gap for them, right? So when we bring them through that process, number 1, it condenses the amount of time that it's going to take somebody to actually make a purchase decision. And number 2, what it's going to do is fully, for lack of a better word, indoctrinate them into your philosophy, your why. You're able to create a really great relationship with them. You get to know them. You have real conversations with them. And this is what leads into that people first approach in sales, where rather than, calling in just a bunch of random people with blanket marketing, what we're doing is we're creating content that is specifically activating to the different types of buyers. You guys have heard me talk about this before. We have a whole episode about the 4 different buyer types. And then number 2, we are unveiling and uncovering for the audience what the gaps are in their understanding that's keeping them stuck and how we bridge that gap. If they don't have those gaps, if they don't have those problems, if they're not experiencing those symptoms, they're not going to be activated by your content. So you never have to worry about selling somebody who isn't a good fit. You never have to worry about forcing someone into a sale that they don't really need, right? The only people that are going to be activated and called in by you are the people who are self-identifying with these symptoms. It takes the pressure out of selling, and it takes the sleaziness out of selling, because you know that this is something that they need because they were activated by what you were speaking to in your content. And so you can have those genuine conversations. You can unpack what those gaps are, and then you can help them to determine if they want to move forward with having you fill those gaps for them, if that makes sense. The next thing to consider is personalization, okay? Ask for opinions, share stories, show the real you, okay? Again, coming back to building those personal connections, we need to actually go beyond just, sharing our dark and dirty secrets to actually having conversations with people to build those relationships. And so that's where this personalization comes in. I don't want to see you sending copy and paste messages in the DMs. I don't want to see you mass messaging people. I want to see personalized interaction. I want to see you asking questions and having genuine conversations with people to determine if this is truly something that would be an ideal fit for them, rather than just pushing everybody through the exact same process. Next, we have showcasing your unique offering. So obviously, highlighting what sets you apart from other people. This can be a litany of things, right? This can come back to your villain and the things that you disagree with in your industry, the things that you do differently. This can also be, your signature framework, the way that you kind of disrupt the industry and do things differently. This could even just be the perspective that you have because of those life experiences that we talked about. Those experiences are going to shape your perspective. And so that is what is going to give you the insight to actually coach people and deliver the services that you're delivering. And so that situation that you walked through and how that shaped your perspective and your beliefs is also going to be a big selling point, because again, if people can relate there, it creates a sense of safety. And when we look into the sales psychology aspect of this, right, people are very, 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 very loss averse. They're very averse to pain and discomfort, which is why loss aversion in selling is so impactful. When we look at the psychology of it, we understand that we essentially have two parts of our brain. We have the primal brain and we have the rational brain. And we tend to make purchase decisions with our primal brain. We buy with our primal brain. And so with that understanding, what we know about the primal brain is that it is above all else selfish. Selfish, selfish, selfish. And so our primal brain wants to see in these service providers or in the creators that we follow, we want to see how their story or how they do is applicable to us, how it benefits us. And so it is very appealing to the rational brain to have somebody who's selling an offer that not only solves the problems you have, but to be taught it or have that service provider have gone through what you yourself are going through. That is probably one of the number one things that eliminates that discomfort and pain of, is this going to work? Is this actually for me? If the service provider that is selling this offering has been through what you are going through, that makes them the perfect candidate to solve your problem, right? And so sharing your, beyond your methodology, beyond your education and your credentials, sharing the why behind where you are. Why do you have the perspectives or the beliefs that you have? What are those beliefs that you have? That is going to really comfort the primal brain and push them over the edge in making a purchase decision. And again, if they're comparing you to somebody else, they're always going to go with the person that feels safer. And this is how you make that person you. So let's talk a little bit about, the customer journey from a people first approach. So we talked about how they find you on an outreach platform. We know this about the algorithms, that you build your For You page brick by brick. And so the content that you are being shown is typically pretty spot on to what you're going through and what you need. And with Pinterest, it's even more so. If you're operating off of a search engine, people are typing in questions that your content answers. And so we're going to pique people's interest with the way that we discuss and the way that we go about creating content. And so we lead with the symptom. so that people can self-identify their content. They can go, oh my gosh, that's me. That's exactly what I'm talking about. How did she know that? Right? That's the impression that we want to create with that attraction content, and that's going to pique their interest and bring them to your account. Then, what's typically going to happen is they're going to come from this outreach platform, whether it's TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, and they're going to come over to your Instagram. This is what we've seen. They come to your Instagram. They typically will watch your Instagram story. They'll binge some of your longer form content, and then they're going to click to your lead generator or purchase a tripwire or submit an application. Okay. There's going to be some sort of micro commitment here that happens. From there, they're probably going to continue to lurk your content. They're now going to be receiving your emails. They're going to be consuming your podcast, your longer form content. So we're immersing them in our world even further. We get them on the email list. We get them inside of the funnel. Maybe they join our free community. They're attending some of our lives, right? We're building that connection. We're building that relationship with them. We are likely chatting with them in the DMs. They're replying to our Instagram stories. And so we're having conversations with them in the DMs. And then they are so locked into your content every day that they are ready and willing to buy when there is an offer for them to buy. Or if you have an evergreen offer, right? Then they get to that point relatively quickly and they go check out that offer. So as you're bringing people through this journey, the key common themes here are we're constantly serving them. You can see as we go throughout this, right? We're giving them that lead generator. We're giving them our content. They're on our email list. They're listening to the podcast. They're showing up to our lives. We are giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving some more before we ever get to that ask. And we are also building the yes ladder, because with that cross-platform traffic of bringing them from Pinterest to Instagram or from TikTok to Instagram, that in itself is a micro commitment, right? Then we have them watch your Instagram stories. They're interacting on stories. They click that the reply or reaction button. We have another micro commitment. They send you a DM, another micro commitment. They join your email list, another micro commitment. They open your emails, another micro commitment. And so we are, with everything that we deliver, with every small commitment we get from them, we are building that norm of reciprocity where we are giving them something in exchange for them taking that action. And so what we're doing is we're response conditioning. We are conditioning them to know that when they commit, when they take action with us, they receive in return, which is what builds that trust and that loyalty and that, again, reciprocity, so that when it comes time for them to make a macro commitment, for them to buy, they've already been conditioned to understand that they are going to receive value in exchange for taking action with you. That is the psychology behind taking somebody from discovery to purchase. Now, a couple other tips that I want to just throw into this episode that I think is important is, number one, to lead with quality over quantity. Okay? Posting 13 times a day. I'm talking about this in another episode. We've been there, we've done that. We've posted 13 times a day, every day for months, right? And really what we saw was the most impactful was creating less content of higher quality. And so as we're bringing people through this funnel and building that trust, quality is incredibly important. Number two is creating content that has a longer shelf life. Again, we talked about they're binging your podcast, they're going to your YouTube, they're hopping on your email newsletter. Those are longer shelf life forms of content that you don't have to be consistently creating and putting out. Those are things that are going to continue to serve you and work for you all the way to the end. Okay. Funnels are very important. Anything that you can automate within that warming and nurturing process is incredibly important. And finally, I just want to say that customization within those funnels is very important. Anywhere that you can add audio, video, anything besides the run-of-the-mill rinky-dink PDF freebie is going to add so much value and really wow your audience, which is what we want to have happen. Again, that dopamine release, that aha moment, the feel-good factor, right? We want them to keep coming back. That's it for this episode. What I'm going to do is, since we've been podcasting live on TikTok, I'm going to scroll through, see if we have any comments or questions that I can answer at the end of this episode, so that this episode is catered uniquely to what you need and what questions you guys have. And then we will sign off. So while we were live recording, one question that we got, how do you come up with so many content ideas and podcast episodes without feeling repetitive? So this is something that we will dive deeper into in our content creation and planning episode, but the way that we actually go about creating and planning content is by basically copy and pasting what's inside of our offers. Right? Everything that we talk about on social media, all of our content pillars are also pillars within our offers. So when we talk about visibility, we talk about clarity, conversion, delivery, those are the pillars of our offers. And so we break each of those down. That within our offer, that gives us an entire year's worth of content. And then we simply have to structure it and organize it to go out on social media. So then every single month is going to have a different topic that we're actually discussing, really diving into and focusing our content around, which keeps things from being repetitive. Okay, next question. In the visibility content, do I post about anything that could attract their attention, or does it need to be something about my business? I've seen a video you posted that wasn't about your brand. It was a story about school that had 1 million views. So where we discussed having content that is kind of pulling back the curtain and sharing your journey, sharing things that you went through, those are going to be oftentimes really great attraction pieces. And so we had a lot of people that followed us because they saw that content, and because our account is really well optimized, we know exactly who we're speaking to. It's incredibly abundantly clear on our account who our ideal people are, what we do. When people found that video and then they came to my account, if it was something that they could identify with, then they stuck around. Now, that being said, I'd say as a rule of thumb, it's really great to have attraction content that actually does have to do with your business, so that when you are piquing people's interest and you are grabbing their attention, it is for something business related that is actually going to, keep them engaged. So that being said, I think one of the key things this comes back to with attraction is profile optimization. So if your account is not fully optimized so that people understand what it is that you do, who you do it for, and also how to get in contact with you, how to binge more of your content, that is a problem, right? So TikTok, if you don't have a website link, if you don't have it linked to your Instagram, right? These are very, very basic things, but I see a shocking amount of businesses that don't even link to their Instagram, right? Very basic things. When on Pinterest, right, we want to be creating pins that are directly linking to other pieces of content on our other social media platforms, or to our lead magnets or our website, etc. All right, that is it for this episode of the Social Media Millionaire podcast. Thank you so much for being here. As always, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, preferably a positive one. Keep those negative reviews to yourself. And if you want to chat through anything that we discussed in this episode, apply it to your brand, and have a conversation about this, be sure to DM me on Instagram. My DMs are always open, and I love having conversations with you guys. And I guarantee you that you are going to get a voice note or 10 back from me. So be sure to connect with me over there. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next episode.